You guys that have done vector work, like in Adobe Illustrators, you're familiar with working with vectors. One click to make a straight type edge, and click and hold to make a curve. So all I'm basically doing here is tracing the outline of the texture underneath. I'm going to close that up. Now I could mirror that. Let's see if mirroring it will work. If it doesn't work, we can always adjust the spline. So okay, just move this one into position as best we can. And you can see mirroring it hasn't really worked because it's quite, the texture isn't identical on either side, but we can fix that just by going into edit mode here, edit point mode, and moving these around to where we need them. And I work with splines quite a bit because you'll find that they're really useful to work with really fiddly geometry like this, where you want to get some detail to a specific shape. So a lot of the modeling I do, I work with splines like this to create a cutout. You'll see what I mean when I cut them out. Now they don't have to be exactly on the texture. I mean, it helps to get it as close as you can, but don't feel like you have to follow the line exactly. Well, let's work on these centerpieces now. Like I said, I used splines quite a bit, and a lot of the metal work you see in my models I do this way. And I do it because it's the easiest way to get detailed ironwork. There are a couple of ways you could do it. You don't have to do it this way. You could use displacement as one way in Max, a displacement map. It won't create as fine, cleaner geometry for you, but you can do it that way. You could take it into ZBrush and you could create it in there as well. Sometimes I'll work that way. For simple things like this though, working with splines is probably the easiest way to go. Back into Modify tab. Let me just adjust these a little bit more. Again, you can see the texture we're using underneath of this is quite low res. The higher the quality of the texture, the closer you'll be able to get the match to the for the line. All right, let's try mirroring this one as well. We're probably going to have to make some adjustments to it. Yeah, it's slightly off. And again, it can be difficult here to find out, to decide which line you should follow. Ignore this shadow and follow the actual metal texture itself. So I know it can be tempting to try and follow that shadow line, but my suggestion would be to ignore the shadow and follow the actual metal. Okay, let's do this middle piece here. Again, I'm ignoring the shadow and going straight for the metal here, so that's why I'm starting higher than what you might think you would. Jump back into the modify tab and just make sure that my things are lined up correctly.
You're my star tonight. Oh, yeah, your light gets me through the night. Oh,
You'll notice while I'm drawing this, I'm trying to keep it as even as I can. So if I put a point in the middle there, I put one on the opposite side so it stays consistent. You'll just find that'll be easier then when we come to actually create the cutout. Let's do this larger side here now. I'm going to position it so I can see most of my texture in the viewport. I'll start with the straight edge. Now I'm trying to do as few of these points as possible. You don't want to go too nuts here, otherwise you're going to make your life harder when you come to actually create the detailing for it. So you want just enough to make the shape, but don't go hitting a point every centimeter type thing if you can avoid it. Just going to check my points here to make sure that they are lined up correctly. Again, I'm going more for the metal and less of the shadow. Yeah, that should be good. Let's again do another mirror. So I'm going to copy, and always make sure when you do these, I'm just holding down the shift key and dragging in max. Always make sure it's a copy, not an instance, because otherwise any changes you make here are going to be repeated on your original. And we don't want that, so let's mirror it. This one is going to have to be changed quite a bit. It's really quite way off here. So I think the easiest thing is going to be to start at the bottom here and alter the top. So go back into point mode. Let's start around here. Even though we're not going to be able to follow the texture exactly, try not to alter this too much from the other side, because otherwise it's going to look a bit odd if this one is too high compared to this one. So even though it may not follow the texture exactly, like here for instance, you're better off not moving those points up to here, because it's really going to be noticeably different from the other side, and it shouldn't be. So I'm not saying don't alter it, I'm just saying don't alter it too much. I know it's probably getting a bit hard for you to see those points, because even I'm having problems with seeing them against that yellow. These ones I'm going to move all at the same time. Pull this one in. Okay. So these side pieces, I'm going to leave them just for the moment until I can work out what's going on there. In fact, I want to jump into my orthographic view here and have a look. Oh, come on, Max, don't do this. Yeah, I'll do them separately, I think, from the front piece. So let's turn off shaded view here and go into constant colors so I can see that side piece. Back into our line again. We'll do the bottom piece now. All right. Way out of the way here, so let's just move it a bit closer to the model. That way we won't lose it. The opposite side, I'm going to hold shift key down and drag a copy over. Let's look at our right hand view here. Looks like we, oh no, just got to move it a little bit. And we may just make a couple of adjustments in point mode. Move these two down to the corner. Move this one up a little bit. Move these ones over a little bit. All right. And now we have all those shapes for the sides and for the front. Just trying to work out an easier way to do this. Whether we're going to work with our original mesh or whether we're going to create a new one. So yeah, we've got some texture stretching happening as well. We're going to have to take that into Mari and fix that up. Again though, this is probably an object I'm going to do in Mari as opposed to Substance Painter. Looks like that's just a triangle though. Let's just save our file here to make sure that nothing happens because we don't want to recreate those again. Before we start finishing up doing some more work on this light fitting here though, I'm going to take a quick break guys. I want to grab a fresh cup of coffee. I'll be back in a few minutes and then we'll continue finishing up doing some work on this light fitting. So I will be back in just a few minutes guys. I'll leave you with my Be Right Back music. Yes, coffee time right now, Sniper Echo. You read my mind. So I'll be right back in just a few minutes, guys. I'm going to grab a fresh cup of coffee. Okay. Now there's a couple of different ways we could tackle this light fitting. We could either do an extraction, like use it like a cookie cutter. Use it like a cookie cutter and cut from our original model. Or we could do it another way, and I'm just looking at the texture that we're using here. And this texture would work quite well as an emissive texture when we take the model into the Unreal Engine. I'm talking about the glass itself. So we could either cut the glass pieces out and use an actual glass material in the Unreal Engine, or we could use a texture map like this in the Unreal Engine and create it and turn it into an emissive material. And I actually think that might work better for the engine. It'll make a better looking model as opposed to trying to fake it more in Unreal with lights, which we're going to have to do anyway. We're going to have to put light sources in front of it to cast light. But by turning the glass here into an emissive material in the Unreal Engine, I think it will look better overall. So instead of us using these like cookie cutters to cut that material out, let's do it a different way. I did notice there's a couple of pieces here at the front that I missed. Looks like the side as well, so let's tackle these ones at the front. So again, let's just cut these, not cut them out, but create these little decorative pieces here. And again, we're going to do a copy and mirror. Making sure I haven't muted my mic by mistake. Let's make some adjustments to that. Again, trying to avoid adjusting it too much. You can go a little higher on this side, but don't go up here like that. Try and keep them as even as you can, but still matching the texture underneath. And these have to come over.
Who knew what we had become? A monster inside of had it coming along for a while now. Had fire burns.
And again, I know that this doesn't exactly fit the texture underneath, but I really want to try and avoid making too many large changes between these two pieces. Otherwise it's just going to look odd in the final model. So even though that should really be moved down, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep it relatively the same, just to keep consistency between the two sides. I may pull them over a little bit though. And let's just jump into our side viewport here and look at that bottom piece as well. May have to guess this a little bit because this piece is in the way. In fact, let's jump to our left-hand view. Again, I'm going to have to sort of like eyeball this and guess it because that base piece is sitting in the way. We can adjust it after the fact when we start working on that piece of geometry. Again, I think it's moved it way out here, so let's just move it back into line. I'm going to copy that piece over to the other side. And we're probably going to have to mirror it as well, so let's jump into our left viewport here, our right viewport rather. We don't have to mirror it, we do have to move it. Alright. Now, how are we going to tackle this? Let's jump into our front viewport. Let's create another line, which is the outside shape of this now. Again, I'm going to jump into point mode. Alright. Again, let's save it just in case I change my mind and decide I want to do it a different way. This file shouldn't take too long to save out. Let's go into attach mode here and start attaching these pieces we created for the interior. Now let's see if we can put an extrude on this. Again, I'm going to jump into my top viewport. so I can gauge just how thick I want that extrude to be. And I'm going to make it a bit thinner than what the original light pitting was because that's really too thick. Maybe something like that. We do want to leave enough so that we can have a fake interior glass piece. So that's given us our detail for the front piece. Let's work on the side pieces. Now this one's going to be a little bit more tricky because these side pieces are actually angled. So let me jump into my orthographic viewport here and have a bit better look. Alright, I think I understand what's going on there. Back into our side viewport. Again, we're going to go back to our spline line. I'm going to have to try and guess this a little bit. I can always make some adjustments after the fact, which is what I'm going to do. Back into our top viewport, and we're going to have to move our line over again. Make sure your axis point is sitting on the actual object.
I'm taking it all in, baby. It's breathtaking looking at you. You give me something to think on, baby. There's nothing better than being with you. These days they're driving me wild.
You also want to make sure these are lined up correctly, because if it's off center, you're going to get a weird bowing happening in extrusion. Alright, let me jump into my orthographic and have a look at this. Again, if we were working on this piece sitting flat, we wouldn't have this bit of a problem here where we're trying to work out the shape for this side piece. It's a relatively simple piece of geometry, so it shouldn't be too bad though. My advice though, if it was more complex, would be to detach that, to have it lay it flat in the X, Y and Z, and that'll make your life much easier. But we'll wing it here and do it by ear. Or by eye, I should say, not by ear.
I'm taking it all in, baby. It's dangerous staying closer to you. You give me something to think on, baby. There's nothing better than being with you. These days they're driving me wild. You're on my mind, maybe it's for the best.
So you'll notice this doesn't follow the underlying geometry, but that's on purpose, because the underlying geometry is on an angle. We may need to make some adjustments here. In fact, I think we will. We're going to have to make some small adjustments to this spline, if I can select it. Going to have to move it in. I'm also going to move the base in a bit more into the center of that outer edge. I'm going to make a small adjustment to this one as well, and I'm just going to move the whole thing over a little bit. In fact, I may need to do a bit more fine adjustment to that, I think. Okay, let's select our outer edge here. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to attach these splines in the middle. Again, we're going to throw an extrude on. It should remember the value we used for the front, so that's good. Now, instead of me doing the same thing to the spline we had on the other side, let's do it differently. So I'm just going to do a mirror of this piece. So again, hold the shift key down and drag over. I'm going to go into my left viewport here. Let me go back into my orthographic for a minute. I don't think we need to mirror it. I think it should be okay. Yeah, no, it should be fine. Which means we can get rid of the original splines that we had on this side. We don't need them now. Okay, let's just review what we've done here. We've got our front piece, our two side pieces. We have this back piece here as well, which we may be able to keep. Let me see if I can detach that. So I'm going to select the original object. Again, I'm having to select these individually because for some reason my object seems to be unwelded. I don't know why. That should not be the case. I've noticed that with a few of the assets. All of the verts seem to be separate. They're not welded together, and they should be. We can fix that up, but I'm just not sure why that's originally happened to begin with. That was the reason I was having the problem with the beveling of the edges the other day. The verts weren't welded together. No problem, Sniper Echo. Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. I'll be back on again tomorrow. Okay, we'll select that bit up the top. I think there may be a piece in here I need to select as well. Legmog, hey, how are you? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in and saying hello. I think it's Legmog. Sorry, you guys know if I mispronounce your usernames, I'm really sorry. Let's detach this piece now that we've selected it. Alright, now instead of me deleting my original file here, I'm going to make a copy of these pieces. And then we can start putting it together. I'm just going to drag a copy over. Let's move these pieces in a bit. I'm making a light fitting, an Art Deco light fitting, because we're going to be creating an Art Deco building to bring into the Unreal Engine. Just let me exit isolation mode here and show you what we're doing. So we're going to be taking this Art Deco building that I originally made and created an fly through for in UDK in 2011. We're going to be recreating it in the Unreal Engine and creating a cinematic. So yeah, we're making an Art Deco building, interior and exterior. I'm just updating some of the assets I created years ago to make them look a bit better. Then we're going to be taking this into the Unreal Engine and recreating the building in the Unreal Engine. So that's what we're working on. At the moment, I'm just going through the asset pieces, and I've got them all lined up here that we're going to be putting inside the building. I'm updating them as they need to be updated, because there's a few of them that need to be fixed up a bit. The texturing and the geometry looks a bit weird. So I'm going to be fixing some of them up and updating them, and then we're going to be rebuilding the building in Unreal. So that's the project. Legmog. At the moment though, I'm fixing up this Art Deco light fitting. Let's jump back into our front view for it. No, it's not for a professional gig, it's just a passion project. Like I said, I created the original fly through in Unreal UDK. I showed the guys the video for that the other day, last week. And I want to see what the lighting changes are like in the new Unreal Engine, because it's been a while since I've worked with Unreal. I work in architectural visualization now. I used to work in games development for game studios. But I'm just keen to see the lighting changes that Epic have made to the new Unreal Engine from the UDK. Because I mean, I love the engine. The Unreal Engine's great to use. So yeah, I'm just keen to see what the building will look like now updated for UDK. That's basically what I'm doing. Yeah, let me just quickly, in case any of you guys are new, because I know I'm new to the games development community in on Twitch. I generally stream under 3D modeling, but there is no 3D modeling community at the moment. So I am working with the Unreal Engine. That's why I'm in games development. Prior to that, though, I was either in 3D modeling community or ArtStation. So some of you guys may be new to the channel. Yes, I am going for a super realistic look, I guess you could say. Yep. I'll just quickly pull up the video of the old version of the model that I did 6 years ago in UDK. Again, just to show any of you guys that are new exactly what it is and what it's going to... It won't look like this, it'll look better because I'm updating it for the new engine. And this was done back in 2011. But I already did a fly-through of this building, so I'm going to be recreating this fly-through using the new Unreal Engine UDK, Unreal Engine 4 from UDK. This is just some concept art at the beginning. And again, this is just for the benefit of anyone new that may be watching that is wondering what I'm doing. I know people pop in and out all the time, so... This was the original Art Deco building created in UDK in 2011. And we're going to be updating it now for the new Unreal Engine 4.15 because mainly I want to see the changes that Epic have made to the lighting from this old version to the new version. And we may create some destructible assets as well for it. We'll see how we go. So again, remember guys, this is old work. I did this 6 years ago in 2011 in the UDK. I'm updating it for the new Unreal Engine to see what the lighting is like in the new version of the engine. Well, thank you, Legmog. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, like I said, it is old though. The assets are all being updated now that I'm redoing the model for the new engine. This is a very old level you're looking at that I created a long time ago. So we're going to be recreating it though in the new engine. I'm updating the assets for it now. And once we've finished updating the assets, and I may retexture a couple of the assets as well, we're going to be taking them into UDK, into Unreal Engine 4.15 and recreating it. Thank you, Alchemist. I'm glad you like the work. I'm a bit embarrassed to show this because again, this was done a long time ago.